Oh my gosh. There are two words that I love to pull out of my toolbox whenever I am in a spiritual teaching environment. The first word is discovery or discover. And I playfully invite the student or whoever's there to attempt to not use that word discover, but instead use the word uncover. And what happens in the brain when you substitute discover for uncover is that it creates then the implication that what we are witnessing or seeing or quote, quote, discovering has always been there. We didn't invent it per se, but what we are doing is that in our own space-time continuum, in the moment of our action and our being, we have come across that thing. So you'll hear us use the word discover often. People, I know this is so outdated, but when I was a kid, it was Columbus discovered America. Of course, we know that that's not true, but we're taught that in class. And so when you listen to that sentence, discovered America, it implies that America didn't exist before that. What was going on was it uncovered this landmass that came to be known as America. And so there just happened to be an intention to get in a boat. Um, all of the astronomers and, from Galileo to present day who are attributed to the names of the celestial things, and we say they discovered this particular thing. Did they discover it, or did they uncover something that was always there? And the beautiful thing about that switcheroo in the mind is it moves us that much closer to accepting the idea that you and I don't necessarily create anything, that creation in and of itself has always been. What we do is we sort of cast our line of intention into the all, into the cosmic field of infinite potentiality. And based upon desire, intention, awareness, we pull into our existence from the intangible to the tangible. But it's always been there. Very much like the Wright brothers discovered, the way to make planes fly. Well, did all of the ingredients and the engineering, did that all just not exist, or did they uncover that which was already existent, the knowledge within the all? And so how can you then apply that same thing? When you come upon something new, did you discover it, or did you uncover something that was always there? And there's a way then to use that to bring a sort of comfort to oneself in the fact that my solution already exists. The answer is already there to the prayer. It's just my delight and my opportunity to uncover that through my practiced, deepened recognition. And practiced and deepened recognition is exactly a spiritual practice. And the other word is awaken. So instead of saying awaken, I invite the students to say reawaken, because what that does then is it provides an implication that at one time you were already awake. And so there's a sort of mass human hypnosis or a going back to sleep. But at one time, there was the full alertness, there was the full union with the one. And so when I think about that word in particular, I always go back to this poem of Rumi's, which I absolutely love, and I use that for the talk today. And it's called Don't Go Back to Sleep. So imagine you're reawakening. And Rumi, the 12th century Persian poet, said, "The breeze at dawn," notice I'm from the South, "the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep." People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. So when I think of each of those lines in Rumi's poem, the invitation to not go back to sleep is an invitation to lean more towards the natural tendency to remember rather than the energy of forgetfulness. And if you play around with the idea that there is only those two energies ever in existence, the energy of remembering and the energy of forgetfulness, what is it then that becomes applicable for you and I to take this from just me throwing words at you through a video screen to something that you actually use, something that you actually apply? How do you uncover and reawaken to the indefatigable union that you have with the infinite? And that you come from that. We all come from that. And so when I think of those lines, the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Poetry is open for interpretation, so that's what you'll get, my interpretation. What does it mean that the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you? Ram Dass used to say, there are no errors in the system. There are no errors in the system. And as poetic as that might sound, and as thought-provoking as that might be, it's probably one of the biggest things that we resist or forget within the confines of this human skin suit. Because it's very, very difficult in the psychology of being human to be able to state emphatically that there are no errors in the system when in this plane of existence, there are plentiful errors all around us. We engage in them every day. We see them. And so what then makes that statement be a statement of integrity? That somehow, if there are no errors in the system, we must be looking at something too myopically. We must uncover the capital R reality rather than this small r reality of just the plane of form or this human experience. So in the bigger capital R reality, there actually is no errors in the system. It only appears paradoxically in this plane of duality, that there is an us and them, a win and a lose, a right and a wrong, a good and a bad. And so the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. It's the intuitive whispering incessantly in the ear that is saying, hey, Betsy, there are no errors in the system. Particularly in those times when we lean towards the error, when we want to hold the error precious to our hearts and build identities around that. And so what happens is this perpetual loop where we are given the opportunity to go, oh, there's the breeze at dawn. And it's telling me the secrets of not going back to sleep. The first unity principle, I believe, is that God is absolute good everywhere present. How many times have you said that? How many times have you read it or prayed it or studied it in a class? That is a part of the link of the idea that the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep with the idea that there are exceptions to those principles, because the principle itself, if it's a principle of absolutism, then right now the absence of that is the relative. So you have the macro and the micro. And one of the most amazing things that you and I can do in the micro is to remember the macro, to invoke the macro and to bring it down, to let it descend into the human experience, to let that which is the ethereal come into this density of this human, to let heaven be exemplified on earth through our remembering. And that remembering is the exact goal, aim, and purpose, and the unconditioned love that refuses to leave you. That's why the breeze at dawn, how many times is there a dawn? Every single day. Every day then whispers to you to not go back to sleep. And even if you do, it's still going to come back around and it's still going to whisper to you. And it's still going to say, remember the principle that God is absolute good everywhere present. And then we go, well, what must I do? What must I do in my thinking? What must I do in this moment in order to reawaken, to uncover the presence and the evidence of that, the tangibility of that in the seeming intangible? That becomes your practice. That becomes the whole purpose of our incarnated being. The poem says, you must ask for what you really want. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. I see that as a twofold process, because to me, energy-wise, remember, allowing, this is allowing, asking for what you want. You must also not go back to sleep with this. This is the resistance. This is allowing, and this is resistance. And what we come to realize is that we can often state what it is that we do want. We want security. We want peace. We want love. We want to be heard. We want to be able to feed our families. We want to be able to achieve wellness. We want all of the things that calm our soul. And at the same time, while we're asking for what we want, we mustn't go back to sleep with the oppositional energy that is pushing that very thing away. And what is that oppositional energy? This is the forgetfulness. This is the low river of futility that runs underneath so many of our existences. I often see it as we get up in the morning, we take a shower, we feed our family, we send our kids to school, we go to work, we do all of those things simply because that's what we do as humans. But that low level of futility whispers to us. It's the part of the sleep that says, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to change. And as crude and as harsh as that sounds, if we got really truthful, if we really dropped down, the low running river of futility exists so much within our day-to-day existence. So this is the part that says you must ask for what you want. Don't go back to sleep. So how do we then appease the hungry despair or the hungry forgetfulness? We must begin to look again and welcome in that which is uncomfortable. We must actually, instead of turning and running away from the fear, or medicating the fear, or over shopping to stall the fear, we must get to sit down with the fear, invite it to the table, and begin to untangle and unravel it in a way that we are no longer pushing it because what we resist persists. So the real statement is you must ask for what you want unapologetically, without qualification, without censoring, without going, oh, pretty please, as if you don't deserve it. To ask for what you really want comes with the understanding that not only does it already exist, but that you are already in harmony with it. You are already a match for it. I want to tell you something that I think is a misconception in spiritual teaching. We often stress in this idea of doing the work that if you do the work and if you do the work right, then you'll never enter into your field a bully or a scammer or a liar or a cheater. And I will take exception with that. And I will say that's not what the work is about. The work isn't some magical thinking that prevents the heartbreaker and the scammer and the liar and the bully from ever crossing your path. Because in this plane of form, there will always be yin yang. There will always be the intersection of that which is dark and that which is light. You get to choose which side you want to play on. And in the choosing which side you want to play on, you also get to recognize the existence of that other thing. So it's kind of a harsh statement, but in the human reality, there will always be war. There will always be inequity. There will always be disasters, as we have seen this week in Maui. There will always be these things in the human plane of form. What then is our role? Spiritual work means that when the bully is present, when the liar is present, when the abandoner is present, when the grifter comes, we are no longer at the mercy of or at the effect of, because there is no reaction. We simply observe it for what it is. And in the long game, these types of personalities, these types of psychologies that are unavoidable in the human thing, don't become something that we're trying to build this fictitious wall around, but we begin to see that they are a part of the practice. By asking for what we want, what we're asking for is integrity in our spiritual alignment. And so you can then say with full sincerity that you are for something and against nothing. And oh my gosh, is that a mighty work? That is a mighty work, to be able to see God in all things, to understand and go back to that first unity principle that God is absolute good, everywhere present. Oh my God, how can you say that when this just happened and this person did this thing? But you begin to see that doing the work doesn't mean that these things are evaporated. It means that when you are seeing them, when you're even in the proximity of them, it does not disturb your center. And in that moment and in that place, you and I will both know exactly what it is that we are to do. What is ours to do doesn't necessarily mean engagement. It might for you. But to ask for what you really want, is sort of a declarative Tonglen Buddhist prayer that says, for the benefit of all beings. And don't go back to sleep. Don't ask for something to appease the low river of despair. Ask for that which will help in the reawakening so that you and I don't go back to sleep. The next line in the poem says, people are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. That door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. What does that mean? People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. That door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. Many things come up. I remember, though, how people will profess things, and they would do these in class, and they would say, oh, my mother was terrible. I don't want to be anything like her. And then they become horrified when they see that suddenly they are acting just like their mother. And I say, if you think of polarity, we often think and confuse polarity as being some linear line like this. But if the loop is circular, if it's circular, it means then if this is what your mother was, you are just right. If you ran away from that, you're just right next door to that same typical behavior. And so when he says that people are going back and forth across the door sill, what is the door sill? The door sill between this world of form and the other worlds of spiritual understanding and evolution. You could say the worlds of the soul and then the worlds of humanity. And the people, I call them the Goliaths of our world. You know, Goliath got a bad rap, I think, in that biblical story because he's depicted as one-dimensional. He's just some ogre, some overbearing thing. And the whole story is centered around David, as it should be, right, David? It's centered around David and his ability to overcome this particular obstacle. But you know what's missing in the story or in the storytelling of that? Is that without Goliath, there would be no ascension. There would be no evolution. There would be no growth within the story. And I see Goliath as this sort of energetic form that goes from one through the door sill. Let me Goliath comes through the door sill into human form, and you have your versions of Goliath. You have the people who have been the biggest perpetrators of your grief. Have you ever considered the fact that we might be holding those people one-dimensionally? That in the great cosmic soup, or again, in the unity principle that says God is absolute good, everywhere present, then that absolutism, that principle can only be made to be in integrity within you and within me if I start to look at all the Goliaths and I go, okay, what was that about? And I begin to say, like many of the Hindus say, everyone is the guru. The biggest perpetrators of your grief on some other dimension are a guru. They're a gatekeeper. They are the ones that are beckoning us to not go back to sleep. So I want you to think about someone that's caused you pain. And now I want you to see them on the other side of the door sill, standing in front of this beautiful gate. And it's a gate of expansion, a gate that is a line of demarcation on your self-awareness. And they're standing there and they're going, come on, come on, come on. Don't give your power away to this. Begin to see that. And can you begin to uncover whatever nugget of gratitude or understanding as to why this intersection and why this interplay had to take place? And I understand the brevity of some of these people and some of these circumstances. And I say that in full sincerity and understanding. Is it possible then that those who are the Goliaths, the gift of the Goliath, are the ones that are crossing the door sill where the two worlds touch? Perhaps there's a contract. Perhaps there is something there that is beckoning us to not go back to sleep, to the one dimensionality of the river of despair. There's such fervency in this poem saying, don't go back to sleep. Something caused you to reawaken. What was that? Don't lose that. Don't become anesthetized by the seductions of this side of the door sill so much that you forget the thing that broke open the heart. Not that broke the heart, but broke open the heart. And so these things loop. That's where the circle comes in. The door is round and open. So it's like every time this is happening and we kind of default back to this, that door is circle. So it comes back again, and it comes back again, and it comes back again. And each time that we can move into a state of unconditioned love, you can think of it almost like an evaporation of karma or the work being completed. I noticed it this week. So I'm really fortunate because I get invited every year now since, about 2016 to write for the Science of Mind magazine. Do any of you ever get this magazine? Any of you find it? So this is the September issue, and there's something a little special about this issue because Centers for Spiritual Living has decided to now start doing double issues in order to secure the longevity of the magazine in these times. So not only do you get September's, but then you get October's too. You flip it and it's 2 editions in one. So it takes a lot of tenacity and dedication to write an entire month's worth of daily guides in this sort of word limit. And I can get verbose, and I want to make the stories compelling and the lessons intriguing. And so it's months and months before I turn these things in. And then it's always wonderful when the box comes because I get advanced copies, right? And so I was out in the yard yesterday and the mailman brought the box and I was like, oh my God, I did exactly that. I went, oh, yeah. And the same thing has happened for years now. There's this rush of adrenaline. I bring the box inside. I get the scissors. I open the box and I go in and I go, oh, look at this. There they are. There they are in form. And I start to read and I go, I don't know if that, oh, I should have done that better. Oh my God. Why did I use that phrase? Oh, that one's pretty good. Oh my God. I wished I'd said this differently. And this circle of the inner critic then makes its return visit. So when the inner critic comes, so you can think of the inner critic as a Goliath. When the inner critic comes, what do you and I do? I would say most of the time in our unconscious state or this state of resistance, we add great weight to it. We give it a front row seat. We give it a megaphone, and it just becomes loud and loud and it builds up all kinds of reinforced insecurity as to why we're not good enough. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot. It's like it adds a layer of tar to our skin. And many of us are walking around with multitudes of layers of tar, this heaviness, because the inner critic, again, keeps revisiting us in this loop. And yesterday, I did something different. I was all hot and sweaty from working in the yard. So I took a towel and I came inside in the air conditioning and I put a towel on the chair and I sat down and I invited my inner critic to come and sit with me. And I just started to breathe. And I began to say, what is this thing that keeps crossing the door sill between worlds that tells me that I'm not good enough? I showed up. I said yes. I did the assignment. I turned it in. What more is needed of me? And in the process of sitting there and going back to something really old and really primal and letting it be heard and letting it be seen and not running away from it, not medicating it, not overeating it, not distracting it, not busying myself from it, that voice began to soften, just as if it was a hysterical child that just needed to expel the energy. And I let it be. And it wasn't a long and drawn out process, and it wasn't theatrical or dramatic, but it was different in the way in which I was able to handle that particular version of a Goliath. I didn't reach out and try to get false security from someone else. I just sat with it and I go, it's just a thought, David. And so I just observed the thoughts. I didn't push them away. I just watched them. And in watching them, I didn't identify with them. And I felt as though there was some progress made. And I believe that that's what that circle is. It's that opportunity, that same dynamic that keeps presenting itself in front of you. Different faces, different locations, same energy, same thought. People, energies are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. That door is round and open. That it's circular. It's revisiting. Don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep every single time that it's there. And so I wanted to conclude with a little poem that I wrote about circles, because to me, that is one of the most accurate ways to think about our particular journey. I called it circling. Hours are filled with beauty. Hours are filled with pain. There is pain in the beauty and beauty in the pain. And the lesson is not grabbing at any of it, but we must grab at beauty and feel the suffering of its fading to learn to cling less tightly. And we will grab at pain, becoming lost in the story, disowning the self, to then be redeemed by unclenching our fist to receive the beauty that always circles around us. So the paradox is, the goal is not to keep from forgetting, because we will. But each time we stop resisting, each time we stop fighting, each time we start recognizing that God is absolute good everywhere present, then we have completed a circle and we have returned, as they say, home. So it is.
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, God. Here's my heart, God. Here's my heart, God. Speak what is true, 'cause I am found, I am yours, I am love, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. Here's my heart, God. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart. Here's my heart, God. Speak what is true, 'cause I am found, I am yours, I am love, I'm made pure, I have life, I can breathe, I am healed, I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. Speak what is true.
Let's just welcome all of us here. Bring all aspects of you here. I'm just thinking of what Margot was singing about. You are the face of God. Just each one of us. Just hearing that melody in my head. And I'm relaxing into that. I'm trusting into that space. I'm gazing at the starlight and the moonlight, knowing that the starlight and the moonlight is always going on. The sunlight is always going on. The light of God is always going on. the starlight. Just imagining each one of those twinkling stars, countless stars, as reflective of a soul that has crossed through this planet, that is on this planet now, or a soul that is yet to be incarnated here as a sentient being. And behind each one of these starlight souls is the same one light. The same one light. So I'm feeling the stars twinkling with peace, just as I am. I'm feeling the stars reverberate, not with emptiness, not with silence, but with this vibration. There was an article this morning that once again pointed to that there is a primordial sound that scientists are becoming aware of, a primordial sound that is always happening. And that sound is the vibration, and it's not an empty vibration. I believe that sound and that vibration is the very thing that animates us, the very one source, the very one presence and one power. So that vibration and that space and that light is not empty. It never has been empty. It's full of love. It's full of hope. It's full of grace. It's full of possibilities. It's full of creation. It's the thing that animates us all. So let's just be aware and grateful of that light, and even the atoms in our body that are made up of atoms that were born in stars. Every atom, every cell, every molecule, just humming with light. The light of possibility, hope, love, joy, peace, abundance. So it's from this place that I come intentionally into this space with all of the parts of me, sharing this space intentionally with everyone in this room. So with an awareness of that vibration and that oneness, let's just relax without words, ineffably into this place for just a few minutes. Let's gently direct our attention to the light of one of the stars in the field of our imagination, and let's just commune with the light of it. surrender to the light of it, make ourselves available to the healing from this one light. As we breathe into it. Noticing how good it feels to just breathe. Now let's come into a space of gratitude for this room, for this day, for this sanctuary, for this community. So I bless the message, the music. I bless the community. I bless David Ault. I bless all the insights from every aspect of this service today. I'm so grateful for this awareness. And so it is.